Hello, everyone. Today
Hello.
we're going to have engineer Lorenzo Rizzi with us, and he's going to be here to talk a little bit about acoustics and acoustic consultancy in residential buildings. So, before anything, hello, Lorenzo.
Hello, Diogo. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, what's your background in terms of studies? What have you done?
What did I do? Well, I started in Italy. I started studying telecommunication engineering in Milano. Actually, I was also an amateur guitarist. I played a lot of rock and roll when I was young. In 2001, I decided, to merge my passion for music to my passion for engineering, and I went to England. I went to England to Salford, and so in 2001 I started a Master of Science in Audio and Acoustics. It was actually the start of my life in acoustics. I got back in 2002, and so I started working right away. I was working actually in the radio business, in constructing radio stations, and that was my first experience. And then I had an experience as a researcher with Professor Farina in Parma on sound diffusion especially. And on the side I always worked as a consultant. So now I have my own engineering firm which is based on Lake Como, close to Milano. And we consult businesses, industries, or on building new houses. We work as acoustic engineers on practical things like noise control, sound insulation, measurements, this kind of consultancies.
How is your day of work? What's your daily routine?
That's a good question. Actually, it's quite various. I'm very lucky because my day is always different. Sometimes I'm on site, so some days I'm around doing measurements with my SPL meter, or I do sound insulation measurements or noise control measurements. Sometimes I'm in the studio designing, writing reports and working with my colleagues.
Yeah. Is that something positive you would say about your job?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
It's my type of person.
Yeah.
A dark side of my work is that I often work in the night. So when I have to do noise assessments, like one or two or twice a week, I have to work after 10 p.m.
All right.
And,
Right.
Would you spend more time do you spend more time in the office, or you usually go outside as well, also in the night?
Let's say it's 50-50,
Okay.
50% is around and 50% in the office. But working in the night now that I'm 45 years old is starting to be bothersome, especially in the winter.
Yeah, I guess so.
In the cold, doing measurements.
Well, as we said at the beginning, that this interview is mainly related to noise and residential buildings, and especially how can acoustics impact people's life in residential buildings. So we can try to go for more specific questions into the topic. In your opinion, how can actually noise impact people's well-being in building, and how you think that good acoustic practices could improve people's well-being in homes or apartments, and which are the consequences of bad acoustic conditions?
Yeah, this is a huge topic.
Yeah.
It's also a personal problem because there are people that are more sensitive to noise than other people. So it's in my everyday life, I see a lot of differences, between my clients and the people I meet for the works I do.
Right.
Anyway, there are the World Health Organization carried out a lot of interesting studies on the impact of the road noise. There are very interesting papers online that can be found for free. And what they understood is that noise is very bad for the sleep, for good sleeping.
Yes.
It's very easy to be waking up by a light noise, actually. Just 30 dB of a noise can wake you up in the night. So if you don't sleep well, a lot of consequences come out for your body.
Yes. Yeah, can definitely have, in your opinion, an impact also on your everyday life. Because of course, if you sleep bad, you're more stressed, and you tend to be stressed also in the day, and that has an impact, I guess.
And then there is also a psychological problem related to this, because it is how do you react to the noise, as far as the traffic noise, people tend to adapt to it. But when you have the noise coming from your new neighbor or from the pub that is downstairs, or from the cooler machine of your neighbor, a lot of people tend to react badly, and if you fix to the noise, then you don't sleep anymore, it becomes a large problem.
Then people should care more about the acoustic condition of the place they live in, and people should pay more attention to the acoustic conditions of a new apartment when they are deciding to buy or to rent a new place. And why would you think, and how can people pay more attention to the acoustic condition of a new place or house?
It's a problem that most people underestimate, I would suggest to visit the place and the neighborhood a lot of times. If it's a new house, in many countries in Europe, you can ask for an acoustic certification of your house. So this could be, sometimes they make you pay for it, but it's better to pay 1,000 euro for it rather than having problems later on.
But of course, as you said before, it's also subjective, the annoyance. It's probably better to just try to spend time in the area and see also what's the soundscape of the neighborhood, and different times of the days, because of course that could change drastically as well during the night or the day. So
you need to be very conscious of what are the bad sound sources. Bad sound sources are big plants, big cooling machines, public places, restaurants, large roads. Even bell towers can make problems to some people. If a person knows that she's very sensitive to noise, in that case, she must be very careful, and maybe she should ask for a consultancy from an expert, because nowadays you invest hundreds of thousands of euros in a new house, and you should think about it before going in and not sleeping.
Yes, and it's also difficult probably sometimes, as acoustics and sound and noise is not really something that we can see, but for someone that doesn't probably entirely aware of the subject or the field, it's not really so easy to identify it as a source of stress, for instance, or annoyance. So also try to be conscious or aware of our personal subjective level of annoyance to noise is something important. And do you think that there will be any tricks that people can adopt to actually try to improve their well-being in their own apartment?
Well, unfortunately, if you're suffering from noise from on the outside, your flat, there are very little things you can do. What I can say is that you can use sound masking. Nowadays there are a lot of sound masking machines that you can find them online for €100 or less. And so you can select white noises or even natural noises,
Right.
and use them to change your soundscape, your internal soundscape, and,
Right.
and make it a little more comfortable. But the reality is that if you have strong sound sources around you, you need to pay for sound insulation, and that tends to be expensive.
Yeah. Okay, so that was quite interesting chat about residential buildings and noise. We would have some final questions for you, which, in relation to acoustic in general, what do you think it's the role nowadays of acoustics in people's everyday life, and why would you say that people should be aware of it?
Of course, I believe acoustics are very important in everyday life. I made my profession on this idea.
Right.
We need a lot of noise control. There is too much noise pollution outside. As I was telling you, we need to go back to the natural soundscapes, because the human being is not developed in a different world, Homo sapiens has 300,000 years, and it's just the last 2,000 years that we're starting having noises. In Rome, 2,000 years ago, they had a lot of troubles with noise in the city.
In cities.
And of course, it got worse and worse in the last 200-300 years with the Industrial Revolution and such. So we need to do a lot in noise control, and we need to do a lot in thinking about the beautifulness of a good sound insulation, of sound comfort, acoustic comfort.
And yes, related to the environment, what do you think, perhaps by preserving natural areas or focusing more on natural sounds, could also help to improve sustainability and in general to influence also other areas of life, not just related to acoustic, but also preserving natural spaces and nature in general? Can this be related to acoustic and to soundscapes, for instance?
I tell you what, I'm very optimistic about the arriving of the electrical car.
Okay.
The electrical car is very quiet, and this will start a revolution in the soundscape.
Okay.
Nowadays, one of the problems is actually the traffic noise that is very loud and is everywhere. When we won't have the traffic noise anymore, we will have to start working on all the other noises, on the cooling machine noises, AC noise, public places noise. So I believe we will start to carry more, to be more interested in that, and we will end up in what you were asking me. We will end up arriving to a more natural soundscape.
Yeah, that's the aim. Do you think that to reach this aim, should acoustics be more popular these days, respect to other fields? I don't know, perhaps respect to architecture, for instance, which of course is quite popular, and also because probably is something we can see and we can touch instead of sounds. So would you think acoustic should deserve some more attention?
Yeah, of course. We needed to make an acoustical culture. I like your idea of this podcast, because we need to talk to the everyday people, people in the street, and think about the beautifulness of acoustics, of acoustic comfort. It's very important. Now there is a lot of ignorance, and I often say that acoustics is the Cinderella of physics and of engineering, because we always come up at the last moment, and when we arrive at the last moment, we find out very big problems to solve. That's another thing.
Yes, definitely. I think so. So finally, how would you describe acoustics to someone that does not the field at all? How would you think you would get people interested in acoustic? What's your opinion? How would you describe this big subject?
This is a great question.
Yeah.
This is a great question. Acoustics is comfort, acoustics is well-being, acoustics is sleeping well, acoustic is being well with yourself, acoustic is nature. We often forget how bad the sound pollution problem is nowadays in our cities. We need to work a lot to go back to the natural soundscape that human beings need. We need to be in our own natural place. We actually developed to be in the woods, to be in the savannah, to be in the mountains, to be on the seaside.
Yes.
But we're not thought to live in a city if it is so noisy.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yes, acoustic is important to live properly, essentially.
Yeah, and everybody forget about it. That's very sad.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they will get some interest now.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that was a good chat. So thank you, Lorenzo, for being with us.
Yeah. If you want to reach me, I have a website. My website is www.suonoevita.it. So suono is a sound in Italian, e vita è come la vita è bella.
Right.
Suonoevita.it.
Okay, and that's your company basically, right?
Yeah. Okay. We are an engineering firm, and we work only on acoustics.
Okay, that's great. Congrats. Okay, so thanks again, and looking forward to hear something for you again.
All right, all the best and good luck, guys.
Thank you
very much, Lorenzo. It's great meeting you.
Ciao.